My name is Taya. I'm 10 years old and I'm in grade 5. Jen and Andrew, what does stress do to your brain?
Stress actually impacts your brain in lots of different ways. But the key thing that it does, especially when you're at school, is it actually really impacts the part of your brain that schools kind of need the most. It's that part of your brain, it's called your cortex, which is another big word. But your cortex is the place of your brain that's like the learning part. It helps you reflect, it helps you daydream, it helps you plan what you want to do in your future. And when we are in those places, we're often just feel like our heart rate is nice and calm, our body feels calm. And I don't know if you've ever been like on a walk or listening to music or coloring, and you start to like think about, oh, when I grow up, I want to be like this. You have that kind of really quality thinking. That part of your brain is what schools need to be kind of active and working. But when kids, or people actually, all people, when they get stressed, sometimes that part of their brain goes almost like offline, like a computer, like someone unplugged all those things that are connected and it disappears for a little while. And then kids start to, or people start to think like more black and white, like, is it this or is it this? And they feel a little bit more overwhelmed. And then if you get really stressed, you're not really thinking at all. And I think that term where people say, oh my gosh, I can't believe it, I lost my mind. Well, you really did for a little while. And I think I said to you before, it doesn't like dump out on the floor. You can get it back, but the way you get it back is by connecting with people that make you feel comfortable, by maybe going for a walk, for listening to music. Some people like to sit in a rocking chair for a minute and just like calm down. Some people like to breathe. What are some things that you like to do when you feel a bit overwhelmed?
Breathing and taking time with my 2 best friends.
And what do they do when you're feeling upset?
Sometimes they give me a hug or we just start talking about random things that distracts me.
Ah, that's awesome. So that's called co-regulation. So that's, excuse me, taking that part of your brain that's like, in kind of a panic, and it's building those relationships, which helps you to stay calm. And then you get back to your, does it take very long for you to get back to your thinking brain?
Sometimes, but not always.
Yeah. So when you sit with your friends or they distract you or they give you a hug, that's actually something called co-regulation. So they're in a nice calm place and their thinking brain is working and they notice that yours isn't. And so they just know what to do because they know you so well. And because you have that really good friendship, you feel comfortable and you can get a hug from them. And people aren't saying things like, Taya, calm down right now. Because if they did, you would say, what would you say? Well, maybe you might not say anything. It might make you feel more upset.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because in that moment, if you're upset, you're not really doing it on purpose. You just can't help yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that's that part of your brain that you lost for a few minutes. And it's like your friends are collecting it and putting it back in by giving you a hug. Anything you want to add?
I think that it's a really good point just to drive home that the increase in stress decreases the ability to learn. And some kids who have a little bit more of a resilient stress response or less sensitive might be able to work through that really quickly if a teacher said, you need to calm down and get back to work, and they might be able to kind of force themselves to do it. But some kids who have a more sensitive stress system might find that really hard, and that added stress of somebody telling them to calm down or asking them to do that might make it even harder for them to stay regulated and calm, and they might even have a harder time being in class, which often doesn't make sense to some of the adults.
One thing you might notice, you described what happens and you feel like your body's vibrating a bit. What your body's actually doing is your brain is like scanning, trying to figure out if whatever's happening is actually something you should be afraid of. So your brain is trying to figure out and like scanning and making a decision. You're not even thinking it. It just, that's the hard part, is that you don't even realize it's happening. Because you're not saying, okay, body, start vibrating, right? It just happens. And that's the tricky part about stress, is that we don't always know what's happening until it's really a big thing. And then we need our friends to help us, or our teacher to help us, or our parents to help us, or whoever is feeling comfortable for you. And that's how you can kind of bring it down. And that breathing thing is also really smart, because the breathing is telling your body everything's okay. You can just, whew. Yeah. So you sound like you have some awesome strategies.